Most people think of time as a river, and that river has been flowing swift and sure for 13 long years since the last entry in the Prince of Persia franchise, the somewhat aptly titled Forgotten Sands. With Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Ubisoft appears to be looking to the past and present in the hopes of creating a future for the franchise, a return to Prince of Persia's roots in 2D platforming on the foundations built by modern metroidvania titles. However, the question of whether the game has anything innovative of its own to offer remains to be seen. Announced at Summer Game Fest, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is a 2D action-adventure platformer developed by Ubisoft Montpellier, the studio behind the beloved Rayman Legends. At a recent preview event at Ubisoft Montpellier's studio in France, we had a chance to go hands-on with an early build of the game, playing on both PC and Nintendo Switch for around 2 hours. In a presentation, director Munir Radi spoke of a desire to bring back the core ingredients of Prince of Persia: platforming, puzzle solving, time-based powers, and a sense of adventure. This new outing is set in a legendary Persia that is described as an age of heroes and gods. Players take on the role of Sargon, a young and impetuous hero who is part of a superhero-esque gang of 7 warriors known as the Immortals. Sargon and the Immortals journey to Mount Kaf, a land cursed with time anomalies, to rescue the kidnapped son of the Queen of Persia, presumably the titular prince. Immediately apparent is the game's striking visual style. Combining 3D foreground environments with painterly backgrounds, its vast world is made up of several visually distinct biomes. Beams of light beat down over the deserted streets of the lower city, leaves drift serenely through an autumnal forest, sand dunes swallow crumbled ruins in the depths beneath the city. The backgrounds are richly detailed and are clearly intended to demonstrate Persia's rich environmental diversity beyond the stereotypical deserts and temples seen in Western pop culture, but always with a high fantasy flavour. Sargon can encounter behemothic beings working a lava-fueled forge, bands of floating scripture weaving through sand-filled caves, and broken statues frozen in mid-air, bound by Mount Kaf's temporal curse. Sargon explores Mount Kaf in the way of every modern metroidvania, moving through environments that make up larger areas of an interconnected world, offering plenty of scope for exploration, shortcuts, and secrets. Traversing around the world feels fun and effortless, an obvious result of Ubisoft Montpellier's 2D platforming heritage, and each area feels like the product of a team with expertise in crafting instantly legible, flow-inducing platforming playgrounds. Subtle navigational aids occasionally nudge you in the right direction, but many rooms have multiple exits, teasing undiscovered challenges and rewards. Our demo did not include the game's tutorial, but that was hardly an issue, as every move you expect from a modern platformer is present and correct, from an air dash to a wall jump, and it all feels natural. The process of getting from A to B is a constant delight, and the series' infamous traps make a welcome return in the form of platforming puzzles. An isolated section from later in the game showcased a challenging run which hinted at the kind of twitchy, pixel-perfect platforming pleasures found in Hollow Knight. For combat encounters, Sargon has a pair of swords at his disposal, as well as a quick-fire bow that can transform into a chakram-esque boomerang. Dodging and parrying is fundamental to success. There is no blocking, creating a high-risk, high-reward combat system, with enemies dishing out significant punishment for poorly timed moves. Sargon also has a variety of combat powers that seem drawn from the catalogue of generic 2D video game special moves. In our demo, these included a powerful wave attack, a lunging thrust, and an area of effect healing spell. Certain enemy attacks, indicated by flashing eyes, trigger special counter moves if successfully parried, and function as an instant kill against grunts or an opportunity to take a sizable chunk from a boss's health bar. Thankfully, for a game that rewards parrying, The Lost Crown appears to run at a locked 60 FPS, even on Nintendo Switch, and its slick presentation makes combat feel fluid and responsive, and look spectacular too. Sargon's animations and movements throughout the world are underpinned by prominent anime-inspired visual flourishes. Dash moves trigger a flash of abstract colour, and instant kill parries include dynamic 3D camera moves, dramatic colour shifts, and super satisfying animations. It looks impressive, and it's much more than mere window dressing. Rather, everything is designed to be in service of how the game feels. Much like special moves and counters in 2D fighting games, a successful parry is as much an aesthetic reward as a mechanical one. Sargon has time powers at his disposal thanks to Simur, a mythical bird and god of time and knowledge drawn from real Persian legend. In our preview, these abilities were limited to an air dash and a kind of teleporting power known as the Shadow of Simur. Players can crystallise a shadow of Sargon in a particular place and then teleport back into it at the press of a button, warping through hazards and enemies as they do so. Though the move is accompanied by a satisfying rewind sound, unlike the Sands of Time, the power only affects Sargon and not the world around him, meaning that with some creative thinking on the part of the player, Sargon can navigate past mobile hazards or pop up behind enemies. As the shadow can be crystallised at any point, including in mid-air or during a combo, it opens up many tantalising opportunities for combat and exploration. Simur is one of a number of creatures, friends and foes drawn directly from Persian folklore, and for the development team, ensuring accurate, sensitive representation of Persian mythology was key. It's clear that Ubisoft Montpellier sees the game as an opportunity to show the influence Persian culture has had on wider mythology from around the world. One boss battle sees players fight a fearsome manticore, a creature widely seen across Greek, Egyptian and medieval art, but the team were keen to highlight its roots in Persian mythology. There is a sense that the team is keen to acknowledge the franchise's own mythology too. Animations frequently reference past entries, such as a finisher that directly quotes the iconic acrobatic vault from the Sands of Time trilogy, and a mini-boss lifted directly from the 1989 original, albeit reworked into a much more traditional combat encounter. Their hope is that The Lost Crown is not a reboot of the franchise, but a love letter to it. With all that said, there is a caveat. If this short preview is anything to go by, The Lost Crown feels an awful lot like a case of familiar notes being played well. Sargon can equip power-bestowing amulets, just like Hollow Knight's charms. In an area called the Sacred Archives, blind, invincible jailers hunt Sargon in certain rooms and are functionally identical to Metroid Dread's Emmys. Even the in-game conversations with NPCs strongly evoke the anime-style portraits of Hades. Much like how Immortals Phoenix Rising appeared to be a distinctly post-Breath of the Wild creation, it's hard to play The Lost Crown without constantly being reminded of the modern greats of the metroidvania genre and beyond. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. I like Immortals, I love Hollow Knight, and I enjoyed what I played of The Lost Crown too, but it remains to be seen whether it offers anything truly innovative or simply stands on the shoulders of greatness. We'll find out when Prince of Persia The Lost Crown is released in January 2024. For all the latest Prince of Persia news and for everything else from Summer Game Fest, make sure you're subscribed to GameSpot.